2 Samuel 15. And it came to be after this that Absalom prepared a chariot and horses for himself, and 50 men to run before him. And Absalom used to rise early and stand beside the way to the gate. And it came to be, whenever anyone who had a complaint came to the king for a lawlessness, that Absalom would call to him and say, "What city are you from?" And when he said, "Your servant is from such and such a tribe of Israel," Absalom would say to him, "Look, your issues are good and right, but you have nobody from the king to hear you." And Absalom would say, "Oh, that I were made judge in the land, and everyone who has any complaint or case would come to me, and I shall let right be done to him." And it came to be, whenever anyone came near him to bow down to him, that he would put out his hand and take him and kiss him, like a politician would today. And Absalom did this to all Israel who came to the king for lawfulness. And Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. And it came to be at the end of 4 years that Absalom said to the king, "Please, let me go to Hebron and pay the vow which I vowed to Yahuwah. For your servant vowed a vow while I dwelt in Geshur in Amram, saying, if Yahuwah indeed brings me back to Jerusalem, then I shall serve Yahuwah." And the king said to him, "Go in peace." And he rose up and went to Hebron. But Absalom sent spies throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, "As soon as you hear the sound of the ram's horn, then you shall say, 'Absalom is king in Hebron.'" And with Absalom went 200 men from Jerusalem who were invited, and they went along unsuspectingly, and did not know the matter at all. Absalom also sent for Achithophel the Gileadite, counselor of Daud, from his city, from Gihon, while he was bringing offerings. And it came to be that conspiracy became strong, for the people with Absalom kept increasing. Then a messenger came to Daud, saying, "The hearts of the men of Israel are with Absalom." And Daud said to all his servants who were with him in Jerusalem, "Rise up and let us flee, for none of us shall escape from Absalom. Go in haste, lest he overtake us quickly and bring evil upon us, and smite the city with the edge of the sword." And the king's servant said to the king, "Look, your servants shall do according to all my Adoni the king chooses." And the king went out, and all his household at his feet. But the king left 10 women, concubines, to look after the house. So the king went out, and all the people at his feet. And they stood still at the last house, and all his servants were passing at his side. And all the Kethronites, and all the Pelethites, and all the Gittites, 600 men who had followed him from Gath, were passing on before the king. And the king said to Ittai the Gittite, "Why do you go, you also, with us? Turn back and remain with the king, for you are a foreigner and also an exile from your own place. You came yesterday, and should I today make you wander up and down with us, when I am going wherever I am going? Return and take your brothers back. Kindness and truth be with you." And Ittai answered the king and said, "As Yahuwah lives, and as my Adoni the king lives, in whatever place my Adoni the king is, whether in death or life, let your servant also be there." Therefore Daud said to Ittai, "Go and pass over." And Ittai the Gittite and all his men and all the little ones who were with him passed over. And all the land was weeping with a loud voice, and all the people were passing over. And the king himself was passing over the Wadi Kidron, and all the people were passing over toward the way of the wilderness. And see, Zadok also came, and all the Luim with him, bearing the ark of the covenant of Elohim. And they set down the ark of Elohim, and Abiathar went up until all the people completed passing from the city. And the king said to Zadok, "Take the ark of Elohim back to the city. If I find favor in the eyes of Yahuwah, then he shall bring me back and show me both it and his dwelling. But if he says thus, I have not delighted in you, here I am. Let him do to me as seems good in his eyes. And the king said to Zadok, the priest, Are you not a seer? Return to the city in peace, and your 2 sons with you, Achimaaz your son, and Jehonathan son of Abiathar. See, I am waiting in the desert plains of the wilderness until the word comes from you to inform me. And Zadok and Abiathar took the ark of Elohim back to Jerusalem, and they remained there. And Daud went up by the ascent of the Mount of Olives, and wept as he went up. And he had his head covered and went barefoot. And all the people who were with him covered their heads and went up, weeping as they went up. And Daud was informed, saying, Achithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom. And Daud said, Yahuwah, I pray you, make the counsel of Achithophel foolish. And it came to be that Daud came to the summit, where he bowed himself before Elohim, and saw Cushai the Archite coming to meet him with his robe torn and dust on his head. And Daud said to him, If you pass on with me, then you shall become a burden to me. But if you return to the city and say to Absalom, I am your servant, O king, once servant of your father, but now I am your servant, then you shall nullify the counsel of Achithophel for me. And are not Zadok and Abiathar the priests with you there? And it shall be that every matter you hear from the king's house, you should report to Zadok and Abiathar, the priests. See, there with them are 2 sons, Achimaaz and Zadok's son, and Jehonathan, Abiathar's son. And by them you shall send me every matter you hear. And Cushai, Daud's friend, went into the city, and Absalom came into Jerusalem.